Hey guys, this is Cody Hoffine. I'll be hosting today's episode, and I'm super excited to be with you guys. For those that are watching right now, those that are listening, more important about this today is, first of all, we've got a rock star with us, and we do this every single show. This is nothing new, but what I want you to do is we're going to be talking about wholesaling. Now, you guys know us for wholesaling. And we're going to deep dive this. Wholesaling is just simply the art of finding deeply discounted properties. Now, if you know how to do this in your market over and over again, my friend, that is how you can make a lot of money in real estate. And so we're going to be talking about one of the marketing channels that is getting a lot of attention, getting a lot of buzz. And so we have with us today Chris Arnold. He lives in, here's how cool this is. You guys want to see lifestyle, like when everyone's like, oh man, I want to get into real estate so I can live this lifestyle. This guy's got it figured out. Chris Arnold lives in Tulum, Mexico. Chris, what is the temperature down there, by the way?
Today it's probably about 76, 77.
Oh, I hate you so bad. Right now, it is freezing in Salt Lake City. We woke up to like 26 degrees. And I'm still cold. Like I'm sitting here with like goosebumps going on the back of my arms. And he's over here. And I was like, hey, what's with your lighting? Your lighting looks so good. He's like, yeah, that's just the light coming in from the windows from the beach. I'm like, you dog, get out of here. So we're going to break down a marketing channel. But Chris, before we break down the marketing channel, give us a little background about yourself. What got you into wholesaling in general? And tell us a little about your background and how it's also led you to live this lifestyle of being able to do it virtually and live in Tulum, Mexico. Because I'm assuming you're not down there wholesaling the pyramids and all the stuff down there, all the what is it, the ruins. So how are you able?
That's a great idea, though. I love it.
Let's break it down for him. Help us understand a little bit more about you, so the listeners can really understand who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I've been in real estate now for 15 years. Just hit it in 2020, if you can believe that. And so I initially started on the brokerage side. So that's how I got my feet wet. I know that I wanted to go into investment eventually, but started off with brokerage, got my license, built up the brokerage. After that was at a place where it was running, it was time to hop into investment. And so I actually started fixing and flipping first before I was wholesaling. And as we tried to scale that up, man, ran into some challenges. You know, if you're doing a lot of fix and flips, there's a lot of systems that go into that. And as the old saying goes, I'd rather take a fast nickel than a slow dime. And that's really what wholesaling is. And so it's probably about 5-6 years ago that we really started ramping up the wholesale side, and definitely just such a key part of the businesses that we have set up. I love it.
Did you get caught in any trouble because that means you're doing it back in 2005. Did you get caught in any of the 2008, 2009, 2010 crash? And did it affect you?
I was doing brokerage then. So when I got caught, I was on the brokerage side. And that's when you had to move over to short sales and REOs, if you remember that.
Yeah.
So we had to do a complete shift. Luckily, during those years, I hadn't got into fix and flip yet. But when we did start, it was kind of around that 2010. And I can remember some people still really nervous about the fact that we were willing to jump in and get in and fix and flip properties.
Yeah, fix and flip can be a beast. Just the background, just real quick before we get into this, is I got involved in wholesaling in 2015, and it wasn't for like 3 years that I didn't even dare. We went through all through 15, all through 16, and 17 we finally picked on. And it was like a home run. It was like one that you hurry and put some carpet and paint in. It wasn't like a full-on fledged rehab, but it took us a while. And there's an art to it, because there's a way to expose your company if you don't do it right. And especially, who knows with what the economy's doing and all that stuff. So you have a great background in fix and flip. Now let's really talk about some key things, the nuts and bolts. We start to get to understand you. Everyone knows this, a wholesaling Inc. is like the dead mail. It's not dead, drop. Mail is still going. It's still active. It's going strong. But what's beautiful is there's a point where everyone is trying to scale. They're trying to get their business to the next level. And even with my own business, we're always looking for ways to grow it. How do we strategically do it? What is the next marketing channel we need to bring on? We try to do it methodically, strategically, so we're not bringing on 10 marketing channels at once and then suck at all 10 of them. But this is one that we're going to cover today, is one that we're really, really excited about and one to really grow into for 2020. So let's break the news. What is the marketing channel we're going to break down today for them?
Man, we're going to talk about radio. Tried and true.
Radio? Who listens
Radio.
to radio, Chris?
Your target audience does. So that's the first thing I laugh about. People go, well,
I don't listen to the radio.
Spotify, right? Pandora. And then I have to remind people, you are not your target audience. You are not your demographic. Your demographic is primarily over the age of 50, and they do not have Spotify.
That's right. By the way, everyone listening to this, you better bring out a piece of paper and a pen and get ready to jot down gold nuggets. There's going to be plenty shared during this. So I always strive to make sure our listeners don't just feel good from listening to this, but they actually see some items here to take action on. So you're right. You're dead right. Because I sit there. I remember the first time you told me radio, and I sat there. I'm like, this guy's nuts. Like, this guy's nuts. Who's going to listen? I don't listen to the radio. And you're right. I'm not looking for Cody Hoffine. My target audience is not Cody Hoffine. So keep going. What is it? What is it about radio? How long have you been doing it, I guess, to start off?
Man, we've been doing radio for 9 years. Can you believe that?
That's incredible.
The reason we've been able to keep it for so long, I've had other traditional marketing pieces gone up and down on me, right? Could rely on them for a period of time. They get saturated, your ROI would drop on that. But the thing about radio and why I've grown to love it so much and my company is because we can rely on it. It's just been consistent and steady. And it's the reason that we've done it for 9 years. For us, when direct mail got really challenging in 2018 in DFW, that's when you would walk into someone's house and they'd have a stack of like 40, 50 postcards. And you would go, man, everyone's on this bandwagon. The thing that we loved about radio is that just didn't happen because there's virtually no competition. Radio's been around forever, but the utilization of radio to find discounted properties is still untouched. It's wide open. Nobody uses it for that purpose.
It's brilliant. So I'm in my head, I'm thinking a couple things. First and foremost, I love how you can kind of differentiate yourself. We're all about, if you came over to see our process, we're all about how do we differentiate ourselves from all others? Like when we're out there, what are we doing different? Because everyone's receiving the postcard, everyone's receiving the same message. So what are we doing over and above? And what's unique is radio plays, much like I said, when you first said this, I'm like, radio, that's interesting. I don't know if I'd invest in radio. And here we are talking radio because I think the concept is so brilliant, but you've got the numbers behind it. You've got the strategy behind it. You've got all the success behind it that allowed me to see why, Cody, you got to open your eyes up, brother. And so I'm thinking now the second part of this is I went to a Jazz game with my boy one night, and we're sitting there at the Jazz game, and I walk in, and first and foremost, Thurl Bailey, he was like a ex-player for the Jazz. He comes walking by. I'm like, Thurl, brother, love to get a picture with my boy. And he's like, yes. And he's just a tower of a guy, just super tall. Mm-hmm. And then I walk around the corner and I see two attorneys. And the only reason I actually think these guys are something is because I hear their jingle like every single time, like while we're watching the Jazz game at home, they're every commercial. But more importantly, whenever you're in a car, their ad comes up on every channel. And I don't even have to say their phone number. Like if I ever got in a car accident, just because of speed and convenience, I already know who I'm calling because I know their phone number. I wouldn't even have to look it up. I wouldn't have to get online. And so I'm sitting here looking at like, what could this be for? Do you see those same results? Because when I saw him at the Jazz game, I literally said to my boy, who could give two craps less who attorneys are, and he's sitting there and I'm like, dude, that's so-and-so. And I said the name and he's all, oh yeah, who's that? And I'm like, bro, those are the ones we hear on the radio all the time. That's them. And he's all, oh, really? But what's funny is they're just two human beings. But to me, they almost felt like a little like celebrity almost.
Absolutely. So you hit on the right word. The interesting thing about radio is it's like television. It creates celebrity status. We know that psychologically for us, if we see someone on radio or television, I mean, that's why we have movie stars, right? Like,
Sure.
where does celebrity status come from? It primarily comes from those two venues. And so there's something that happens in our mind when we hear someone on the radio. We go, they must be a celebrity. They're on there. And then here's the next thought that follows, which is really important about radio. And that is, if you're on radio or television, then you must know what you're doing. You must be an expert. And we call that instant credibility, because people think if he's on radio or she's on radio, they have to be an expert. So you get this really great combination of celebrity status, instant credibility. And I'm going to tell you this, Cody, if you want to be ahead in your market, you're competing against other wholesalers in the area. If you walk in with celebrity status over, let's say, someone that used a traditional marketing source like direct mail or text blasts and so forth, trust me, you're ahead of the game before you even go down to sit in and pitch.
That's awesome. So there's so much that is going through my head right now, right? This is like question time. So get ready for like deep diving and help us further.
All right, fire away, man.
Okay, so there's so much going in my head. And my head, you'll see, I can't keep up with myself. So I might lose some thoughts, but I'll get back to it. But the one I want to think of is at Wholesaling Inc., we work with tons of students. We work with them nationwide. And the common question I get, and we still show them how to pound through this and power through this. In my market, I know how to find every list I want. It's like, I know it because we've done it for so long. And it's like, if you want to be the best, you got to become the expert. And so you got to find the new ways to get all these new lists. But for many, there's some states where they're like, hey, that list doesn't exist. And sometimes you have to question, like, are you just going weak on it? Like, you're just not going hard at it? Or is there really not a list that exists for some of these states? How does radio help fix that problem?
Because it's not list dependent.
Guys, so listen to this. This is a crucial thing.
This is what creates saturation.
Yeah.
It's the fact of, is it people really fighting over direct mail, fighting over ringless voicemail, text blast? No, that's just the method. What everyone's actually fighting over are the lists.
That's right.
That's where the overlap happens. So all of a sudden you get into this battle of who can build the best list. And that becomes a high level of maintenance. It's really a lot of work to get in and build the most niche list. People are like starting, again, this has been going around for a while, but layering lists, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're this plus this, and that creates greater probability that they're going to sell. It's stacking those lists. Absolutely. When you advertise on radio, you're hitting an entire audience that's potentially not on people's lists. And so there might not be
I'm not hearing anyone on the radio. This is what's interesting why you're saying this. Like everything you're saying, these light bulbs are going off like, yeah, this is true. Yep, this is true. Yep, this is true. Like there's not many people in Utah going on it. And there's not many people in probably many states doing radio. I mean, what's your likelihood you actually even run into anyone?
There's virtually no competition. And I know this with the students that we've helped. The one thing they'll come in and they'll say is, you know, the reason I decided to go on radio is because you asked the question, who in my market is on radio? I sat back for a sec. I thought about it and I realized there's no one.
Yeah.
And I hear that again and again. And that's what's so interesting about this. As long as radio has been around, right? It's something that everyone knows about, but no one is really utilizing it. And here's the thing, Cody, if you want to succeed in any type of marketing, one of the best ways to do that is to go after something that doesn't have competition. You can have a great marketing strategy, but if it's oversaturated, it doesn't matter how hard you work it. It's just not going to present the ROI. But if you can get onto something that's wide open with no competition, then your success rate's going to go up tremendously without question, because you're not competing.
That's right. That's right. No, and that's this beautiful. Here's the other thing I think that's pretty cool is this now just came through my head just now. The jingle, right? Going back to those two attorneys. Right now, I have no need for them. But one thing that's branded on my head that I can't get rid of, because it's actually the easiest phone number that exists in the state of Utah. But when that time comes, I don't have to wait for a postcard, or I don't even have to go Google. In my head, I already know if I come across this situation, these people seem like they just get things done. And I already remember the number. So when it comes to priority, like oh man, I just got in an accident. Who should I call? I don't have to Google this. It's already in my head who I'm going to call. And they've already branded me saying they're the best in the industry. Is that much the same? Do you see that even with you with real estate? They're seeing you as the expert and they brand yourself. And it's people that have heard you over the years, but when they needed you, that's when they called you and they already knew their number. Like they already knew everything on how to get in contact with you. Is that the same play?
Without question. And here's the way I'll break it down. And this is where you'll really expand your understanding of this. So let's utilize direct mail. And direct mail is great. Nothing wrong. It depends on your area, right? You could be just crushing it right now. But I'll say this, and I'll ask this question rhetorically. How many times are you going to send a postcard to a particular person on a list? 4, 8, 12 times, right? I mean, has anyone ever sent somebody a postcard 100 times? No, because you send it someone a certain amount of times and then you move on, which means they forget about you. But that doesn't happen on radio, because if radio is consistently playing again and again, think of it like direct mail. It would literally be the idea of sending someone that direct mail for year after year after year. Yeah. And of course, it brands you. And I'll tell you one of my favorite stories of to really hit on the point of what you're making. Yeah, we got a voicemail one day from a mom that was in her car driving, and she called in and she left this voicemail for us. She said, "Hey, I listen to classical. We were advertising on this classical station." She goes, "I love it. And my kids are always in the back seat and I'm driving them around." And she goes, "I want you to know that my kids, when your ad comes on, they repeat it verbatim." And she said, "I thought it was just so funny. I wanted to call in and tell you guys you're doing a great job." So not even a lead. The kids in the back seat, they're not even paying attention. They're not listening to classical music, but it's the fact that it's played so much that subconsciously it sets in, just like what you're talking about with those two attorneys. You don't get that with other traditional marketing pieces. Not going to happen at that level.
Same thing. I think about even like wedding rings, right? I know who I'm going for the wedding rings. Like the guy is branded everywhere in Utah. And I can tell you, open Monday through Friday till 8, Saturday till 5, close Sunday. And I can tell you online at blah, blah, blah.com. I can tell you their phone number. I can tell you everything. And sure enough, I went through the office. I'm like, "Hey, where'd you guys get your wedding rings?" It was like 60% came from that one that I just repeated right there, that ad. But it's unique. And I don't know why I didn't think about this sooner. Tell me, in my head, I'm thinking about this now. How easy is this process to implement? So here I am, completely love marketing. I do it all the time. We're heavy in so many different areas. Here's a new area. And now my mindset's saying, "Oh man, am I starting over again? Or is this going to be very well, like it's going to be easy to implement and get going?" How easy is that process?
That's what I love about radio. It's low. The challenge is knowing how to set it up.
Yeah.
The challenge is not getting it set up. It's setting it up in the right way. But in this, if I were to compare it to, let's say, direct mail, again, we'll utilize that as an example because we did a ton of direct mail.
Yep.
It's a pretty light lift. It's not a super complicated thing to set up. When you look at direct mail, you've got to build lists. You got to tweak your postcards. You got to deal with the mail company. With radio, we like to call it, and the best way to describe it, it's a set it and forget it.
Yeah.
You get your radio ad up.
That's the cooking thing. What's that cooking thing that guy had growing up? The set it and forget it. Do you remember this, or is it just me?
I don't know if I remember.
You don't remember the infomercial where the guy was like, "Set it and forget it"? He'd like put a turkey inside this little cooking top thing. No?
That's so funny. I remember Tom brought that up. So you and Tom must have the same.
Tell me, brother. I was hoping you were going to be like, "Yeah, I do remember that guy. I bought 3 of them." All right. So set it and forget it. So, but how hard is it to implement? Like, are we talking, "Hey, I know this is something I wouldn't want to learn on my own"? I mean, is that pretty coachable, pretty easy? We'll say, "Yeah, this is your script. This is how it goes. This is what you do."
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the setup is actually just administrative, if you think about it, right? You've got to have the right script and go in and record your script. You've got to set up your play times with the radio station, right? Those
Yeah.
type of things. I would say that about 80% of the process is simply administrative setup, if you think about it. The only challenging part of radio is negotiating with the stations. That's
Yeah.
it.
Now, is that something you
Feeling
have to learn on your own, or do you also have the technique strategies?
No, man. This is where I find people that set up why they're not successful as this area. I would say on average, most people are paying 2 times the amount for their radio than we are.
Say that one more time, Chris. That it cut out a second. Say that one more time. The cost to what?
They're paying 2 to 3 times the amount for radio than we are. So let me put it in the context of buying a house. Cody, we know that the most important thing you do in the entire investment process is buying the house at the right price. If you get that right, every other domino for the most part will fall into place. If you get that wrong in the beginning, it doesn't matter what you do on the backside. You're probably not going to make a profit or potentially lose money. It's the same thing with radio. If you buy it right in the beginning, everything falls into place. And the challenge is most people, if you just reach out to a radio station, talk with the sales rep, you potentially think, they're your friend, they're working on your behalf. No, they're not. They're working on behalf of the station. Sure they're going to oversell you. And they're going to upsell you on a bunch of stuff that you don't need. It's amazing the amount of stuff that radio stations can sell you. It's about getting rock bottom pricing. That, if I could tell you anything, is the secret sauce.
And that's unique no matter what state you're in. It's not like, oh, I'm sitting here in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I know this market, and so I know how to do it. It's
We're
like
doing it all over the nation.
Good.
We're doing it all over the nation.
Okay.
Absolutely. Big city to small city. And I'll actually tell you, if you're listening, if you're in a small to mid-sized city, that's actually even easier. Cody, I'm in one of the most competitive cities in the country for radio, which is Dallas Fort Worth. You can Google it and see, right? Our stations are massive. We have huge players advertising, and we still have all of our stations at rock bottom prices. So if we can do it in Dallas Fort Worth, you can pretty much do it anywhere in the country.
What does that look like on Timeframe? Look, we're going to talk a couple things, so make sure I stay on track here. We're going to talk about kind of like the ROI, the return, the numbers. But what is it Timeframe from the time that you said, hey, this is something I want to get into? How long before it's like up and going, but then how long before you start to see some traction and actually see some like leads coming in?
Yeah. So getting it up and going, the only variable there is your negotiation skills, right? So this comes down to human performance. So if you can get in and you're a good negotiator, let's say from the time you started going, okay, I want to set up radio, you could be up on radio within 3 to 4 weeks. Everything set up.
3 to 4 weeks, it's going. And
it's up and live. Yes, that is if you're a great negotiator, you get in and you know what you're doing, right? If you struggle with that, or you kind of get into a position of some bad sales reps in your areas and so forth, it can take longer than that. It can take a few months.
Yeah.
So that really is a variable depending on the person. For me, for instance, when I got in and set up my radio station, it took me 5 weeks to get mine up and going.
Okay.
I'm in Dallas Fort Worth. It was competitive. So I had to get in there and grind it out, but it took me about 5 weeks to be able to do that. Now, here's the interesting thing. You asked about, hey, when I turn on radio, like how long do I have to wait? The actual highest call volume is within the first 90 days because the target audience has never heard this ad before. They've not heard this message. So you get this massive spike, and then over time, it begins to get to a level of where it's going to stay consistently. Yeah. So what I like about it is you're doing deals right away. Like you play, and then the first week, your phone is ringing.
Yeah.
And again, let's remind, this is like all inbound. You're playing an ad, and all you have to do, Cody, is answer the phone. We're talking, this is called reverse prospecting, if you know that term. It's the idea that you only are talking to people that have reached out to you, picked up the phone to call you.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that is obviously one of the easiest leads to convert versus chasing down someone that has never heard of you. Right?
Hands down.
Now,
Hands down. Hands down.
It can be challenging.
What does that look like? Maybe now let's talk a little bit numbers. What does that look like in regards to, are you doing any other marketing channels, by the way, or just radio?
No, we use several marketing channels.
Okay. So when we're talking cost per conversion, money spent to how much before you get a contract. I mean, it's not unheard of to hear $5,500 cost per contract or cost per conversion. Is this one you see on a low end? Is it a high end? Where are you at when you know numbers, when it says like cost per conversion? Are we paying little or are we paying a lot for those deals?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you my numbers for Dallas Fort Worth. It obviously fluctuates from city to city, state to state. And then I'll speak of some of the people that I've helped set it up and the numbers that they've given me back.
Awesome.
So we have a very big budget on radio that we advertise on. So anytime you're doing something at a large level, your law of averages is going to come down to what it should truly be. So for instance, if you just send out $2,000 worth of direct mail, of course your ROI is going to be through the roof closing one deal. You just paid for that for the next, year.
That's right.
But in Dallas Fort Worth, for every dollar we spend, we're getting $3.50 back. So let me say that again. For every dollar, we're getting $3.50. Any CFO will tell you that if you're advertising on something at scale and staying between $3 to $4 on your return, that is a great marketing piece. Now, for my buddies that I've helped set up that have smaller budgets, let's say they're under $1,000, $1,500 a month and so forth, they're reporting back to me at that level returns of $6,
I'd
$7.
say should be higher.
It's 1 to 6, 1 to 7. But again, the law of averages again is working in their favor. So the thing I like about it is, again, if you're spending little in the beginning and getting it up and going, that's what makes it easier to scale, is because your highest dollar per dollar return is actually spending a smaller amount initially.
Tell me this, because this is now a question I just thought of on the spot. Was, so you have your $1 out to $3.50 coming back, $3 to $4 coming back, which is phenomenal. What about the room for growth? Is that something that can also scale as well? Like if I said, hey, I have a budget of, I'm making this number up, hypothetical, $40,000. Can I find a way to spend $40,000 on radio? Or is there a point where it's like, okay, you've maxed out?
Yeah. So it depends on your market, right? But that's what attracted me to radio. Because here's what frustrates me. What frustrates me is a marketing piece, which you get into that works well, and then you hit a low ceiling.
Yeah.
Right. You can only spend so much. And then it's like, man, I'd love to scale that more, but I can't. That doesn't happen with radio. So to give you an idea, right now in Dallas Fort Worth, we spend $27,500 a month.
That's awesome. $27,500 every month, and about on average. So you guys can do the math offside on this, about a 3.5 return, $3.50 for every dollar spent. Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. So that's what I like about it. It's funny. It goes from both extremes. People go, and I'll tell you, why people don't initially do radio. They automatically assume it's not affordable. Yeah. My first station that I got in and picked up, I picked up for $1,500 a month. That was it. That was my very first station to get me off of the ground before we grew it. So I love the fact that there's a low barrier of entry on the cost. And most people automatically assume that there's not. I've got to spend, right off the bat, $5,000, $10,000 a month. It's not true. Yeah. But then over to the season side, for someone running a bigger team that's looking for scale, the great thing about radio is you can scale it. So you get the best of both worlds on both sides. And you actually don't see that with every traditional marketing piece. It's again, the reason that I'm such a fan of radio. It just has a lot of great components to it.
So you've talked all the moving parts. I hope I've covered all with questions. If you feel like I've missed something, please chime in. But ultimately, you help people set this all up. You have a way to get this going. What, from the time frame, you say it can be 5 weeks to whatever your negotiating skills are. What about knowing the know-how of, like, when do you do it? Like, are you letting the radio station say, hey, you should probably do this at 7 a.m.? Or is this something you already know, that data that helps people understand, like, I know what time my target market is listening to the radio? Or does that come from the radio? Like, how much is involved from you versus radio?
It's 100% on us. You're telling the radio station what to do. If anything, you're combating their philosophy, which is going to go against what is right for finding discounted properties. This is what's interesting. So this is why people get in trouble. They rely on the radio station. Again, think about radio advertisement,
Yeah,
right?
we have a spot open. I'm going to sell it because this is the spot that's open.
But you can advertise anything on radio. So if I'm selling, a product or something like that, then that philosophy is going to look different than finding distressed properties. So a radio station doesn't necessarily know the best philosophy for finding a distressed property. You wouldn't expect them to do. You can imagine how many types of companies advertise on there. So there's no way that they have cracked the code on that.
Right.
So absolutely we do. It's all in our hands. And so what we do is a full blueprint. Like it's pretty much turnkey all the way to the point that we help our students actually pick their stations. Yeah. And I don't know about you, Cody, but if I get coached, I don't want to make a ton of decisions. I want to step one, step two, tell me what to do, help me set it up and get it up and going so I can start getting a return and getting this lead source going. And that's what I appreciate. And that's how we've structured this thing to be a complete blueprint all the way down to what you should say, how you should record it, what times you should advertise on, what stations you should be. I mean, literally every question you'd have along the way, there is an actual formula to this process. And that's what we're helping people by setting up the formula that has helped us get successful for doing this for the last 9 years.
So here's what I love. I'm sitting here looking at what has helped more students in any coaching program or any kind of mentorship program is it comes down to what you just nailed. And that's just narrowing it down to very simple actions broken down for someone like me that A, is not technical, B, needs it broken down that literally a kindergartner can understand this. And I feel like that's exactly what you do is you take the approach of just, no, step by step. Here's what it is. We're going to walk.
We hand it on a platter.
That's right. That's right. So what does this look like for those out there? Let's say someone says, hey, I like what I hear. I want to learn more about this. Is it something that with radio, it can take on a ton of students? Is this something that's territorial? What does that look like?
Man, I'm going to tell you the first decision I made, and it's because I've been burnt so many times on things getting saturated. We've sat on this for a while.
Yeah.
And my thought has always been about preserving, because I would hate for, happen to radio what happened to direct mail, right? So one of the things we decided from the beginning was not to saturate the market. And so we're actually running exclusivity and territory. Again, my business still relies on radio.
That's right. That's right. I don't have 15 people in my market.
I'm not myself out of business here, but I think people appreciate that, that sense of exclusivity, that sense of, okay, is this something I'm going to get on? And then all of a sudden everyone in the country is going to be doing? No. We said from the very beginning, we're going to preserve it. And so we're going to create exclusivity per market. I'm glad you asked that question because that's an important point. And if we can do that as an REI radio community, then what we can do is have something that's going to work for us for a long time.
That's right. Now, guys, here's something great. This is someone that when we met Chris for the first time, so all of you listening in, when we met Chris for the first time, he was an individual that had integrity, an individual that cared about the success of others versus his own self. And that's crucial in today's market. That's crucial for how people win. If you want students that win, it's because you wake up every morning saying, hey, how do I help Sally's student get their first deal versus, hey, how do I do something that's going to be amazing? I'm going to make incredible money. This is not why he lives in Tulum because he's just making hands over fist. He has a way to do this where he can do this virtually, which is really cool and unique, and which we want to talk more about. This is something I'm interested in. You might be buying a little home next to yours for me and my family. But I'll tell you what's been great about watching Chris is how he takes care of the client, how he walks them through step by step. His team is phenomenal, by the way. His team does a lot of this, and it's been incredible to watch. But if they are looking, if for those that are looking, I can't type it. I might be able to type it actually in here. And if not, I'll definitely add a link in here, but I'll tell it to you. If you're looking to say, hey, I'd like to begin a conversation, see what this looks like. and see if this sounds like a fit, go over to wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Okay. So REI stands for real estate investing. Don't let this get complicated for you, but just wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. And that's where you can fill out a small application. And Chris and his team reviews that application, see if it's a fit, and then reaches out to you to further discuss if this really is a good fit. What is a good fit, Chris? What are you looking for? What's a good fit? Is this someone that's like, can be right out of the gates, gets the concept of investing, or is this someone that's like, no, we like someone a little bit more savvier, has done a couple deals? What does that look like?
It's been interesting as I've watched students come in, right? Because, I talk with each student as they come in. It's actually pulling in both, right? It's the person that's new to wholesale and goes, you know what? I've been spending, $1,500, $2,000 on direct mail a month, and it's not really working out, or something. It could be anything, whatever that is, not necessarily DM. But, I want to put that somewhere else where I feel like I'm getting a greater ROI. So it's for the person that's newer, that wants to get out of the gate and get ahead of the competition. And, as I do, one of the ways to be successful, and I love Ray Dalio says this, it's the ability to go against the consensus and be right.
So true.
Because what I've noticed about real estate is everyone just follows everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone duplicates everyone. Yeah. And again, there is a point that duplication is obviously important, but there are points in your business where you've got to go against the consensus and be right. And so I know that there's people out there going, I'm just looking for something different.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting the people that are like, dude, I do over 100 transactions per year. I've got a massive marketing budget,
another arm,
and I need something else. And so, part of the reason we shared this is some of the pain that we went through with some of the other traditional marketing pieces that just literally fell out on us because they got oversaturated. And we know that's just going to add a lot of value, because right now our industry is hungry for something that they can rely on when it comes to lead generation. Because if that domino breaks down, doesn't matter how great your team is, doesn't matter anything that you have past that, how well you can dispo a property. If your lead generation process breaks down, you're in trouble.
Awesome.
Nobody's getting paid.
What other things, anything that I missed that you'd want to finalize and put a big old beautiful ribbon on top of this package that we shared? Is there anything, any advice, anything you want to share with those listening and watching right now?
Yeah. The last thing, and I bring this up because my team has brought it up so much. When I talk to them about, as we were going to share this as a company to the country, what were the things that we wanted people to understand? And one of the things they really impressed upon me is, as a company, they feel proud of radio because it's not sleazy. There are certain marketing channels out there in which we know that we're spamming people. Yeah. We honestly feel a little bit shameful about how we're generating that lead. Sure. And let me tell you this, when you build a team, you might not be there yet. Yep. Eventually that gets passed on to someone. And if you have acquisition managers that get beat up because of hate calls, and you have, pre-qualifiers that are answering phones that are getting yelled at, you have closing managers that are just dealing with people right off the get-go that just aren't unhappy because of the way you came to them. Yeah. When you can set up radio and people call in and they're happy to talk to you, I've never, ever gotten a hate call off radio.
Really? Nothing?
No one's going to call you.
There's not people even out there like, oh, this guy's a piece of crap, I'm calling him right now. No, you don't even get it.
I can promise you we've not ever gotten not even one hate call. And so the thing I would impress, or the thing that my team would say, is understand that as an organization, it's a marketing channel that you can be proud of. It's something that you can stand behind. You'll put your company name on there. You're not going to put your company name on a bandit sign. Not going to happen. You might not even do that on direct mail, right? If you're, text blasting people, you're probably not going to want your company name on there, or it's going to get hated.
That's right.
But with radio, it's not sleazy. And my team loves the fact that they can be proud of that lead source. And I can't tell you how important that is when you're running an organization and your culture.
That's awesome. Well, guys, to end this, I just want to cap some of the cool things is I had to think about it in my own head was the celebrity factor. I thought that was just crucial. I thought that was something unique and cool that really no other marketing channel can develop. Cold calling can't develop that. Direct mail can't market that. But radio does add that level of celebrity. Much like when I saw those two attorneys at the Jazz game, I was just sitting there thinking, "Oh man, that's so and so." And then I sat there and thought about it. I'm like, dude, they're just two attorneys. Like, they're not really celebrities. But it's interesting how Chris said our mind will tell us how these guys are something else. And you can do that. You can build that celebrity factor. The other one I think is crucial is the fact that we're sending out a lot of marketing, and you have to send out a lot, and you got to be consistent because you never know when things change. The beautiful thing about radio is they're now just going to simply call you when they're ready because they've been hearing you in the background for so long that they don't need to go to the stack of postcards. They don't need to go Google you. They already feel like you are an established authority and that you know what you're doing because you bought radio space, for heaven's sakes. And when they're ready, they're going to call you. So, Chris, thank you so much. This has been something for me as I've been trying to unravel my head saying, oh man, getting into this, I have so many little questions. So I hope my questions didn't throw you off thinking, dude, Cody, where do these questions come from? But what I love is your complete confidence in delivering the answers, and then me thinking, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what I need to hear, because this makes it look very, very good. In fact, we were talking before we started this, how excited I am to have this investment moving forward for 2020 for my own company here in Utah. So super excited, Chris. For those watching, Chris is a go-giver. The guy's awesome. If you're interested, I'll put a link in there. But again, it's wholesalinginc.com/REI radio, where you can begin the conversation to see if it's something is a fit. And if so, get ready to start building that celebrity status, that awareness, and start getting some leads in that never drop the F-bomb at you. That's something I just learned. I had no idea no one calls Chris yelling him out, because I get that all the time, or at least I don't. My team does. But this will be a way we can relieve some of that stress. So, Chris, anything else you want to add?
That's it, man. I enjoyed hanging out with you. A lot of fun today.
Okay.
Great conversation.
Thank you, guys. God bless you guys. Get out there, charge. Don't just feel good about knowledge that you received. Go out there and take action. That really is where you will start to change your life and change many lives out there that you come in contact with. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time when we do another live and another episode. God bless you guys. See ya.